Good evening and welcome to Ramadan Conversations. We're all in this together. It's presented by the Affinity Intercultural Foundation of Australia. I'm John Cleary and I'll be hosting this series of conversations presented throughout Ramadan. Today is, of course, Mother's Day in Australia and in many parts of the world. And this evening we will be meeting four outstanding Australians who have embraced the challenges of motherhood, career and family presented by our contemporary Australia. Ramadan is of course characterised by the iftar meal, the breaking of bread amongst friends and neighbours. This year, COVID-19 has made that impossible. So Affinity has decided to carry Ramadan to this online platform, a virtual iftar if you like. Ramadan Conversations is a 1-hour live virtual iftar. Each episode will be live streamed and later available for download on Affinity's YouTube page. As a former ABC broadcaster with a special interest in religion, it's my great pleasure to host these conversations together with a number of assistant hosts drawn from the Muslim community to assist us. Tonight, we're joined by Dr Mujgan Berber, Compliance Manager at Sydney's Amity College. Mujgan, welcome.
Thank you, John. Good evening to you too.
Mujgan, Mother's Day is marked today in Australia and in many other countries around the world, but it's only a relatively recent celebration. It began in the United States just over 100 years ago, back in 1908. Yet in some countries, such as Great Britain, it's linked with a much older Christian tradition called Mothering Sunday, held around 3 weeks before Easter in the Christian calendar. Is there something similar in Islamic tradition? I mean, can Muslims also mark the day?
Mark of a day for mothers in Islam, but it is celebrated across Turkey, of course, across all the other countries. With every other country, Turkey does celebrate it. But in Islam, there's great emphasis and importance placed on the mother. As they say, there is the heaven is under your the feet of your, your heaven lies under the feet of your mother. That's hadith, and also in the Quran, there's emphasis placed on the mother as an important person because of the pain endured during childbirth. So there's both in the Quran and in sayings. However, in Turkey these days, I don't know whether mothers are appreciated as much as it should be. And across the world too, there's a lot of mothers and their children who are bearing suffering. And there's a global, I think, need for the importance of mothers to come back again, I think. And not just one day, it should be every day that mothers are appreciated, I think. And I think Islam tries to do that in the Quran as well as in the Hadith that it states. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we might pick up a couple of those points a little later in our conversations. So let's turn to our special guests. First tonight is Captain Mona Shindy. Captain Mona has served in the Royal Australian Navy for 30 years. She's a chartered professional engineer and an engineering executive and fellow of the Institute of Engineers Australia. She's served on many warships and her naval career has taken her around the world. She saw active service and has led many officers and sailors both at sea and on land in various operational theatres and in a broad range of shore appointments as well. In 2015, she was recognised as Telstra Businesswoman of the Year for her business leadership achievements. She also served as the Chief of Navy's Strategic Advisor on Islamic Cultural Affairs, for which she was awarded in the Australia Day Honours with a Conspicuous Service Cross. Currently, she's the Director at the Naval Material Seaworthiness Assurance Agency. Captain Mona Shindy is the mother of 3 children. Mona, welcome to this Ramadan conversation.
Thank you so much, John. It's a pleasure for me to be here with you today.
Mona, this is an extraordinary career. I mean, tell us, first of all, what led you into engineering, then into the Navy, and then how you came to the Islamic affairs responsibility in the Navy. How did it fall to you?
Oh, well, I started off, I think I found my way into engineering because I had a bit of a love for science and maths as a young person at school. And it was just a natural progression into something that continued those skill sets through university and then later on in life. So that's how I ended up in engineering. And when I joined the Navy, it was very much about the prospects of adventure, doing something exciting, worthwhile. And my older brother had joined the Navy earlier and was travelling all around the world. And he would send home some fantastic postcards that looked pretty exciting to me. With regards to the Chief of Navy Strategic Advisor on Islamic Cultural Affairs, that was a role I did a few years back now. And it was about Navy looking at all ways of increasing our ability as an organisation to increase inclusiveness and diversity, and be well aware of all the particular needs of various people within the community who form part of the Australian demographic. And as a Muslim woman in the Navy, and there are not too many yet, I was
Really?
chosen for that role to do as a secondary role to my main engineering job.
Mujgan.
Yes. Happy Mother's Day, Mona. Captain
Thank you
Mona.
so much.
What,
Same to you.
what were the thoughts of your parents and your family or your community at large as you took on the role? Now, how did your culture and more so your religion affect the decisions that you took on in life?
Well, look, I've always had very, very encouraging parents who had a strong desire to make sure that I pursued passions in life, that I pursued things that were of interest to me and where I could make some positive contributions. That said, I did have lots of fantastic pride and people feeling fantastic about me joining the Navy in my immediate sphere. But others perhaps were a little bit more apprehensive, perhaps in the wider community. But that soon changed when people understood the nature of the role and the great opportunities and great way to really contribute and make a difference.
Mona, your background is in electrical engineering, then a master's in organisation and management, also another master's in politics and policy. Now you've got a highly responsible managerial position in the Navy. How did you manage to balance all of this over a 30-year period when, first, some of those years were in a pioneering period for women generally, particularly in a male-structured service such as the Navy, when it was only really coming to terms with the position of women in positions senior to men. And at the same time, you become a wife and mother. The responsibility of family. I mean, for many people, this is 3 jobs, not one, or 3 careers, not one.
Well, this is true. It was not easy. I won't be beating around the bush to say that it was a walk in the park or anything like that. But I have been blessed throughout my life with lots of wonderful people around me, great support structures within my family, my extended family. My mum helped out a lot, and to be honest about it, I think I married the best gentleman on earth, and so he was also incredibly supportive throughout my career, and that's exactly how it happened, I suppose. I lucked in with a lot of good things that came my way.
Yeah. Are there any outstanding experience and advice you could provide to your young mothers contemplating the male-dominated career paths, if you think about it? What has helped you keep a balance between your family and your career, Mona?
Look, I think any organisation, particularly the Defence Force, at this point in time, and has been on a fantastic journey. And any organisation that has a great interest in its people, just as the Defence Force does, is very focused on trying to meet the needs and the requirements to be inclusive of all types of people, all their different challenges. So I would, if I was to give a recommendation or to give some advice to people wanting to try and be part or to achieve certain things that they desire and be part of all of that, is to go for it. And I think that we are well structured and improving day by day, year by year, in understanding the needs of employees and really trying to cater and make people feel as comfortable as possible so that they can meet all their commitments and their obligations, be it work or family. So go for it, I'd say.
Just one
Encourage,
sidebar
you're
question.
saying.
Yeah. How do the kids cope with it?
Well, my kids aren't kids anymore, to be frank. My oldest, she's 24 and she's finished university already, and my son is in his final year of university. He's also done engineering, and I've got a little one who's in year 11. So they've coped pretty well. So they did all right. I think all in all, they've turned out to be quite well-rounded, very respectful, decent young adults, and so. I think again that it is doable, but very much with a great deal of support from those around me. That's how it happened for me and those that I love. So I was very grateful for all of that and very thankful that I had that to help out. And I think the kids really benefited from it too, because they got to see their mum able to do things and have their own aspirations and see me as an example for what they could also achieve also.
What sort of impact has COVID-19 had on the life of somebody in the Defence Forces? And I would imagine life in a highly structured organisation like the Defence Force and the demands that it places on strong organisation must have had a particular impact in an organisation like the Navy, certainly, where you expect numbers of people to be off at sea, mixing in very close quarters for confined spaces for long times. How's it affected the Navy as an organisation?
Well, I think the Navy's done pretty well. I mean, in terms of the education as to what needs to be done to make sure that the personnel are well protected and able to function and do all the roles that we would normally do. We've continued to do that and continue to do even more through this crisis in terms of supporting the community more broadly. Navy has been excellent in that regard. But what has changed, I suppose, with organisations like mine at the moment that take a support role to support the frontline vessels and other organisations within Navy, is that we've all ended up finding new innovative ways of working remotely. Most people have been able to work from home, and the surprising thing is how much work has actually been achieved. And I think we've learnt a lot of new things that will change the way we choose to work into the future. And, you know, sure, it's been tough, but also it's opened our eyes to many, many possibilities about what can actually be achieved in different ways.
And how about for you as a Muslim? How's your Ramadan experience been affected this year, and how does it compare perhaps with Ramadans you remember from your childhood?
Well, it has changed. Again, as I've said before, we've tried to be a whole lot more innovative this year with how we've experienced Ramadan and how we connect as a community and as family. What's been fantastic about working from home is that we're able to actually free up a fair bit of time. So that normally means instead of being rushed at the end of the day to come home and try and cook something desperately before it's time for iftar, there has been a way to actually structure the day a little bit better, have more time available, more time for reflection, more time for prayer, while still achieving, perhaps, as I've said before and alluded to, a whole lot more than perhaps I would have achieved even in the office. So that's been a real positive. But, you know, the big hall gatherings on a Saturday evening with every family bringing some food and bringing it together, well, that hasn't happened for us this year. But we have managed all to work out how to use Zoom, and we've managed to connect of every evening during Ramadan, even if it's just to say a few du'as or to read a bit of Quran together, or to have the children recite stories about experiences of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, or to tell us things about what the various attributes of God mean. So we found ways to make sure everyone's involved, We have prayed and done our tarawih at home as single family units, but all in all, it's just been a different way of celebrating.
Captain Mona Shindy, it's been a privilege to have you with us this evening. Thanks so much for joining this Ramadan conversation.
Thank you so much, John. It's been my pleasure. Thank you, Mujgan.
And so, Mujgan, it's time to meet our second guest for this evening. Our second guest is the Honourable Senator Kristina Keneally. Prior to entering the Senate, she served in the New South Wales State Parliament, becoming Premier in 2009, the first woman to hold that position in the state. Since entering federal parliament, Kristina Keneally has held positions of Shadow Minister for Home Affairs and Shadow Minister for Immigration and Citizenship. She's currently Deputy Leader of the Opposition in the Senate. Welcome, Kristina Keneally.
Welcome, John, and thank you to you and Mujgan and the community for having me tonight.
Kristina, you've had a significant career in politics. For most, becoming state premier would be both a success.
Yes, come on. All right.